Welcome back, Jayhawks, to another episode of Takeover. I'm your host, Gabe Daniel. We sure hope you had an amazing spring break, as once again our crew has another exciting content-packed episode. As I like to say, it's a great day to be a Jayhawk and an even greater day for another episode of Takeover. Namdi, Jackson, and Barry will have a college hoop skit. Jackson will break down the J-School bracket group, and Chad will have the 2-minute warning with some baseball news. All of this and more after the break.
It's officially the maddest month of the year, and it's no surprise that brackets are already busted, upsets are happening, and the road to the Natty is anyone's game.
Jackson will give us some more information on the J-School brackets later, but for now, let's talk about some of the biggest upsets we've seen so far. The very first game of the tournament, 6-seed Colorado State and 11-seed Michigan, ended in an upset, and everything went downhill from there.
That should have been my warning that everything was about to change, because then number 5 Iowa lost to number 12 Richmond 67-63, and the Midwest region was thrown off from the start. But honestly, the biggest upset and biggest bracket buster was number 15 St. Peter's overtime win over number 2 Kentucky.
Yeah, that one definitely took the world by surprise, but back to talking about the Midwest, we're about to see an 11-seed Iowa State and a 10-seed U of Miami face off in the Sweet 16. And if there weren't enough upsets for you in the first round, we saw 6 more in round 2, including 1-seed Baylor going down to a strong UNC team after a controversial flagrant 2 call on Brady Manick, and 2-seed Auburn fell short to a 10-seed U of Miami.
The Big 12 has 2 teams left in the tournament, and the biggest surprise is Iowa State. The number 11 Cyclones beat number 6 LSU in the first round and then went on to beat number 3 Wisconsin after adding another Big Ten upset for the Big Ten. Teams who have not had a successful tournament so far, with only Purdue left out of 9 teams who made the tournament. Overall, these first 2 rounds have been very eventful.
And we saw the first half of the Sweet 16's matchups last night, with Coach K extending his career at least another game, 2 more 1-seeds going down, and Villanova looking strong as they cruise into the Elite 8. I can't imagine that March gets any crazier, but it does every year, so I'm excited to see how the second half of these Sweet 16 matchups pan out. Will St. Peter's keep up their Cinderella story tonight against Purdue? Will KU make it to the Elite 8 to face off against either Miami or Iowa State?
So many questions that will be answered in the next 12 hours, and I couldn't be more excited. Stay tuned, because after a short break, we will be looking at the aftermath of some of the biggest upsets in the tournament so far through a therapy session.
Well, I hope your guys' spring breaks are going good, because my bracket isn't. But you know what? I'm here to help you, so one by one, we'll step into my office and talk things over. Okay, who's first? Well, look what the cat dragged in. See what I did there? Funny enough, my puns were better than your play a couple weeks ago. So, what happened?
Look, I can explain.
You lost to the Peacocks.
Well, we obviously weren't the only ones that got our heart broken out of the other 17 million people.
They had no guy over 6'8" and Doug. You know what? I hope that mustache lives in Lexington forever. I hope that lives in your head.
Well, when you only have one guy that drops over 29 points and the rest of the team just poops the bag, then that explains a lot.
I don't even know where to go next. How about the walking form of a disappointment known as the Iowa Fraud Eyes?
Some kind of therapist you are, the Iowa Fraud Eyes? At least we won the Big Ten, man.
Well, winning the Big Ten is great, but the funny thing is, you and I have the same amount of Sweet 16 appearances since the turn of the century. And I'm a therapist.
Like, who would have thought that a hot Iowa team with Keegan Murray would...
No, not another word from you. You lost to a fringe NIT team. Everyone was distracted from how god-awful your football program is for a month, and you go and lose to an 11 seed.
Hey, well, don't worry. We'll be back.
Didn't you say that last year after you lost to Oregon State in the round of 64? Whatever. Speaking of teams that are orange and disappoint, hi Auburn. How's it going? You guys were the tournament darlings, the 2 seed with Jabari Smith and a bunch of YMCA pickup guys as your guards. Couldn't see how this one fell apart.
Look, man, I couldn't even tell you. Where did Isaiah Wong come from?
Seems like the bribes wore off in the postseason, huh? So then you go out there and you shoot 19% against a 10 seed.
I thought Iowa State was an 11 seed.
Wow, Wisconsin. I almost forgot about you guys. Seems like your offense isn't too hot when Johnny Davis doesn't score every point, huh?
Well, if Chucky didn't get hurt.
Well, if you would have tried to put the ball in the hoop instead of doing everything to not do so, we would have had a different outcome.
Well, at least I got my ring.
Yeah, and what did that win you? A national championship with no fans in the stands?
Hey, man. Championship is a championship. Don't try to befuddle us. Cut us some slack, at least.
Yeah, and then so does being bounced in the first round by Oklahoma in the Big 12 tournament, and then being bounced in the second round of the NCAA tournament by UNC.
Whatever, man. At least we got the best GPAs in our men's division. We'll be back next year. We fought hard.
Yeah, we all saw your poor excuse of a coach's tweet after the game. Anyway, this has been brutal. Okay, well, that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully it was beneficial. What did we learn? What's up, everybody? It is March, and it is truly the best time to be a sports journalist. And so what I wanted to do was take everybody in the Kansas Journalism School, that wanted to, obviously, in our sports department, and put it to the test in a giant bracket challenge. And so that's exactly what this is. Let's go to the standings. Very last, Nick Beckman. This has to be a glitch. There's no way you have 0 points and no champion. I'm assuming it's a glitch. Who's really in last place? Nnamdi Onyenike. Brutal, man. 220 points in the first round, 100 points in the second round. Not ideal. No points yet in the Sweet 16, and his champion's gone. So he's not off to a stellar start. Maddie Hartley, Lily Hennick behind him. Both have their champions gone. They're in a tough spot. Cal Butcher, journalism school professor, in 22nd place. He told me this is a bad year. That's what every bad bracketology person says ever, whatever. Gonzaga, his champion, gone. Gus Balow was big on Kentucky this year. He said that a lot. His champion's gone. They were gone in the first night. He's sitting in 20th right now. Claire Decatur, she's in 20th right now. She's got her champion still in it, though. Emma Lionetti, her champion's gone as well, but she's in 18th. Richie Obaid, champion still in it. It's Kansas. And then probably the only person in this bracket challenge that doesn't have Kansas, Gonzaga, or Kentucky winning it is Caleb Jenneret, and he is Purdue, and he's in 15th. So he still has a lot of points at play here, and he sits in 15th. Now to the next slide. Here we go. The top of the leaderboard. Let's just stay at the bottom, though. Here I am with Gabe Daniel. We're tied in 10th right now. My champion's gone. I had Gonzaga, whatever. Don't want to talk about it. Gabe Daniel at Kansas, he's still in it. A lot of points at play for him. Emily Baldwin and Chad Cushing, believe it or not. Chad, after losing his champion on the second night of the tournament, has found his way in the 7th position right now with Emily Baldwin, who thought she had the best bracket in the world. Now she's sitting in 7th because her champion's gone too. So obviously Chad had Kentucky, no good. Sydney Clark has Kansas. A lot of points at play still. She sits in 7th. Tom Milner, Caroline Soro, and Anna Ambrose are tied at 4th. Arizona, Kentucky, Soro's champion and Milner's champion are gone. But Anna's champion, still in it. Bill Yourself, not really sure what that means, but whatever. She sits in 4th. Ty DiDomenico and Barry sit in 2nd right now, tied for 2nd. Barry has Kansas in it, champion still in it. Ditto had Tennessee. Tough break, man. Tough break. Losing to an 11 seed. Whatever. His champion's out. He only has 660 points at play. Not exactly ideal. And at the top of the rankings right now, heading into the second night of the Sweet 16, is Aiden Charlotte. He sits with 250 points in the first round, a fantastic first round, 180 in the round of 32, which is the best that I've seen, and he still has his champion in it, 1,430 points still at stake right now. He sits in the 95th percentile of bracket, so that is fantastic. We're cheering for you, Charlotte, but let us know who you got winning. You've seen the standings, both sides. Let us know at Takeover KU on Instagram and on Twitter. Thank you very much for tuning in.
We are just over 3 weeks away from the start of the NBA playoffs, which are set to kick off on April 16th. The Suns are dominating the NBA with over an 80% win percentage this season. The Eastern Conference standings are much closer with the Miami Heat, 76ers, Bucks, and Celtics all fighting for the top spot in the East.
But the big question as we get down to the wire is, will the Lakers be in the tournament? If the play-in tournament started today, the Lakers would be facing the Pelicans. LA is slowly falling after their loss to the 76ers on Wednesday, so who knows where they will stand as the playoffs are slowly approaching. They need a win against the Pelicans on Sunday to have hopes of making the play-in game.
Yeah, the Lakers were definitely missing LeBron on Wednesday, who was out with a knee injury. He's averaging 30 points per game right now, which is the highest since his 2009-2010 season when he played for the Cavs. Hopefully, LeBron will be able to rest and recover as they have a break before facing the Pelicans on Sunday.
On Wednesday, the Miami Heat bench got into it with each other as Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem started shouting at each other during a timeout huddle. Coach Eric Spoelstra slammed a clipboard and got into it with Butler, but the Warriors made things hotter for the Heat as the Heat's loss hurts their top spot in the Eastern Conference.
Miami sits at 47-26 atop the conference, but a surging Celtics team and a healthy Philadelphia could dethrone the Heat, trailing back only 1.5 games.
Meanwhile, the Suns are about 60 wins and are the teams to beat in the West. But a Curry-lead Warriors and a fun Grizzlies team can make things interesting. Stay tuned because after this short break, Aiden and Evan will give us all the latest news on the NFL free agency.
Yeah, I always just clap at this part.
This is where everyone's talking amongst themselves. Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to do it?
Are we supposed to smile?
When do we start? Somebody over here already started.
Can we talk about the piccolo part's the most complicated one?
It is. If you listen, you're doing it when the band's not playing.
You have to tell me when it starts. I still don't know.
Here we go. Just clapping now.
No humps. Nailed it.
I practiced this morning. Tomorrow's just two people.
It has a right and a wrong way of doing it. No. Wrong.
I like my way better.
I don't know how to
1,
do
2,
the
3,
end.
4.
It's just I don't know the
Sorry.
head.
It's hard by yourself.
This year's NFL free agency has been a roller coaster to say the least. Wouldn't you agree, Evan?
I couldn't agree more. And one of my favorite moves is Russell Wilson going to Denver.
There is no doubt now the AFC West is the best division in football. You also can't forget the GOAT is foregoing his retirement.
That's right. Tom Brady has decided not to retire with a tweet saying, "These past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands." Brady will play his 23rd season at the age of 44.
Going back to the strength of the AFC West, be prepared to see Devontae Adams in a black and white jersey as the Green Bay Packers traded him to the Raiders for a pair of first and second round picks.
I would say the Raiders hit the jackpot with this trade. Well, they get one of the best receivers in the league, and the Packers only get 2 picks.
Yeah, that was an absolute steal for the Raiders. And now Derek Carr is paired with his favorite target from college. Another contribution to the strength of the AFC West is Khalil Mack heading to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Very similar to the Raiders, the Chargers got Mack for practically nothing. In this trade between LA and Chicago, the Chargers received the top pass rusher, while the Bears get a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 sixth-round pick.
Another surprising pickup was Cleveland taking their chances with Deshaun Watson and most likely moving on from Mayfield after he's requested a trade.
I think the Browns are starting to become their old selves again by picking up a quarterback that was facing legal troubles. Also, the Browns gave Houston 3 first-round picks, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2024 fourth-round pick.
Arguably the craziest move of this offseason has been the Tyreek Hill trade to Miami, and in return, 5 draft picks.
I would say this is a blindside hit on everyone. But while many people are crying about this, I'm quite happy with this. As a Broncos fan, he is one less receiver we have to worry about locking down.
The thing is that the Dolphins don't have an offensive line to be able to get him the ball. So we'll see what they do with him.
That's just some of the moves so far this season. Let us know what you think of these moves on our Twitter at TakeoverKU. Now over to Holden with women's hoops.
The Kansas women made their return to the NCAA Division I's women's basketball tournament as the number 8 seed in the Spokane Regional. The Jayhawks are making the program's 14th all-time NCAA tournament appearance and first since KU went to the Sweet 16 as a double-digit seed in 2013. Big 12 Coach of the Year Brandon Snyder has led the Jayhawks to a breakthrough season in 2021-2022, and Kansas enters the postseason 20 wins for the first time since 1999 through 2000, which is also the last time the Kansas had 10 or more conference wins in a season. The Jayhawks matched up with numbers 9 seed Georgia Tech in the first round. Georgia Tech was 21-10 on the year and in an NCAA tournament for the second consecutive season. Georgia Tech was able to hang around in the first half, but after losing the lead in the second quarter, they never got it back. Kansas took control of this one and beat Georgia Tech 77-58 in the first round. Led by Ona Chatsilonti with 15 points and 10 rebounds, and Holly Kerskeeter with 19 points. Junior center Tiana Jackson made things difficult and pain on both ends. Finishing with 14 points and 7 rebounds, she also swatted a pair of shots to extend her single-season school record to 92 blocks. The Jayhawks moved on to the second round to play the defending champs, number 1 seed Stanford. The game featured 2 coaches of the year in their respective conferences, Brandon Snyder of Kansas and Stanford Tara Vanderveer, the winningest coach in women's basketball with 1,154 career victories. The game was played at Maples Pavilion, giving the host Stanford a bigger advantage. The Jayhawks pushed the top-ranked Cardinals in the first half, with the score at halftime being 33-31. Kansas was shocking the world and even made Vanderveer sweat a little. But Stanford, number 1 seed for a reason. They took it in the second half and won 91-65. It was a great year for the women's basketball team, and they performed way better than expected at the beginning of the season. This is a young team with lots of potential, and I can't wait to see what they do next year. Now let's send it back to our co-host, Emily and Sydney.
Thanks, Holden. Sporting KC is off to a rough start in the West for the MLS, losing 3 of their last 4 games with a tough game ahead of them tomorrow against their longtime rival Real Salt Lake at home at 6 p.m.
And for MLB, after 3 long months and almost no baseball for the season, MLB opening day is right around the corner. Spring training is in full swing, but what has been the big shock is some of the recent MLB free agents.
Last weekend, Jesus Ferreira scored a hat trick for FC Dallas in less than 10 minutes, becoming the first player to do so in FC Dallas history. This hat trick led FC Dallas to a 4-1 win over their rival, the Portland Timbers.
Former Houston Astros shortstop Carlos Correa, who signed a 3-year, $35.1 million per season contract to the Twins, but with 2 opt-outs available, making him the 4th highest paid player in baseball this season. Next is former Cubs star Chris Bryant, who went to the Colorado Rockies, signing a 7-year, $182 million contract. Lastly is Corey Seager from the Dodgers to the Texas Rangers, signing a 10-year, $325 million contract.
Many MLS players made an appearance in Mexico City last night to represent the U.S. for World Cup qualifying match against Mexico. Unfortunately, the U.S. couldn't find the back of the net, but Mexico couldn't either, leading to a 0-0 draw and a point for each team. After this game, the U.S. and Mexico are tied for second in the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying table. If the U.S. can beat Panama on Sunday and Costa Rica loses their game, the U.S. will punch themselves a ticket to Qatar for the 2022 World Cup. However, other outcomes of the game provide many other possibilities.
Emily, I'm just thankful baseball is back and I'm ready for opening day. After the break, Richie will give us an NHL update. Stay tuned.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
What's up? I'm Richie Obaid, and this is the NHL Trade Deadline Recap. This year's NHL trade deadline was the busiest of all time, with 33 trades happening and moving 54 players around the league. However, many will say that despite this being the busiest deadline ever, it was still underwhelming and just saw a lot of minor trades happen. There were a few notables, however. For starters, longtime Philadelphia Flyers left winger and captain Claude Giroux was traded to the contending Florida Panthers for Owen Tippett and 2 draft picks. This trade happened right after Giroux played his 1,000th game for the Flyers. Giroux was well respected in Philly, and the management even decided to deal him to Florida, the team he wished to be dealt to, even though the Flyers had better offers elsewhere. The next major trade happened when Chicago's Blackhawk goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, was traded to the Minnesota Wild for a conditional second-round pick. This will be Fleury's fourth team in a 6-year span, and the Wild hope Fleury can give him the edge in trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. Another big trade came when Anaheim Ducks sent defenseman Hampus Lindholm to the Boston Bruins for 3 draft picks and 2 other defensemen. The Bruins immediately gave Lindholm an 8-year extension for $6.5 million a year. Lindholm has been a consistent D-man in the league ever since getting drafted in 2012 and hopes to continue the trend with the playoff hopeful Boston Bruins. Other notable trades consisted of the Columbus Blue Jackets sending Max Domi to the Carolina Hurricanes, the Winnipeg Jets trading Andrew Cope to the New York Rangers, the Seattle Kraken trading their first ever team captain Mark Giordano to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then trading their third line left winger Marcus Johansson back to the team that had him for the first 7 seasons of his career, the Washington Capitals. Also, a familiar trade deadline name, Derek Brassard, found his 9th home in 6 years when he was traded from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Edmonton Oilers. It will be interesting to see how these players perform for their new teams as the playoffs are fast approaching. That's all I have for you guys today. Now here's Tom with tennis.
Welcome back to Tennis Talk with Tom. The Jayhawks lost to both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State over break. They bounced back when they defeated Texas Tech at home. The Jayhawks won the match 4-2. Match wins include Ngunue, Samagna, and Manu. This past weekend, the ATP and WTA players competed at Indian Wells. I was in attendance and saw some fantastic matches. On the men's side, California native Taylor Fritz won his first title down in the desert, defeating Rafa Nadal in the finals. Fritz won the match 6-4, 7-6 to make history in the desert. Nadal had battled in 2 3-set matches before getting to the final against Kyrgios and young Spaniard Alcaraz. On the WTA, Polish player Iga Swiatek defeated Maria Sakkari to win back-to-back titles after defeating Kontaveit in the final in Doha, Qatar. Also breaking news, former world number 1 Ashley Barty has retired from the sport of tennis. She said in an exclusive interview she was emotionally spent and she gave everything to the sport of tennis. The men and women are battling in Miami this week at the Miami Open. The tournament is played at the Hard Rock Stadium. Now let's kick it back to Chad to talk about baseball.
Since our last show, a lot has happened in the baseball world. Most importantly, we are having a season. Free agency is just about wrapped up, and we have 2 weeks until opening day, which means it's time to craft up some predictions for the upcoming season. After renewing my Baseball Reference premium subscription and scouring for hours and hours, I have 5 bold predictions in store. Let's get into it. My first bold prediction for the 2022 MLB season has to do with the New York Mets, specifically their 2 ace pitchers, Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. I think that the 1-2 punch of deGrom and Scherzer will finish the season as the greatest starting pitcher duo of all time. Before Jacob deGrom got hurt last season, he was absolutely unstoppable. In 15 starts, deGrom had a 1, yes, just 1 ERA, and a ridiculous 14.3 Ks per 9. Scherzer was also fantastic as the 36-year-old led the league in whip, hits per 9, and walks per 9. Right now, I deem the greatest duo ever to be held by either Greg Maddux and John Smoltz in '96 or Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander in 2019. The only thing standing in the way of these two pitching lights out and challenging for the top spot is Father Time. But both guys have seemed to have discovered the fountain of youth. I'm ready to see how much gas they have left in the tank. Next up, a little less bold of a take, but I have a caveat attached to it. I think that this year, Juan Soto runs away with the NL MVP award, but I also think that this starts a decade-long run where Soto is the frontrunner for the award every single season. As much as I want to deny it, being the Angels and Mike Trout fan that I am, I can feel the passing of the torch coming from Mike Trout to Juan Soto as the best player in baseball. At age 23, Juan Soto is coming off an MVP runner-up season, which he deserved to win, and is displaying traits that few young stars have displayed in recent memory. This leads me into my next take, also involving Juan Soto. I believe that Juan Soto will set the single-season walks record for a modern MLB baseball player not named Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds currently holds a single-season walks record with 232 in 2004, mostly because of his absolutely absurd 120 intentional walks that season. He's also second and third all-time. So let's just erase Barry out of the equation. He was just a different beast. That leaves us with a two-way tie between Mark McGwire and Ted Williams with 162. Last year, Soto had 145 walks in 151 games. If he can split at least that 10-game gap to a full season, there is an extremely realistic chance that he sets the record. Take a look at the age of the seasons atop the list, and then consider that Juan Soto is going to be 23 this season. His play discipline is a work of art, and I could seriously watch him draw full-count walks all day long. No player in today's game has shown as much natural feel for the strike zone like Soto, and I would love to see him set the all-time walks record and win his first of many MVPs. My next hot take has to do with the biggest spenders of this offseason, the Texas Rangers. On December 1st, the Rangers spent a combined $500 million over 17 years worth of contracts to a new middle infield duo of Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. This made them the sexy pick to contend in the playoffs in the AL. My hot take is that they will disappoint all expectations and finish in 4th place in the AL West, only ahead of the rebuilding Athletics. Their lineup is young and potent for sure, but if the rival Angels are any example, you need pitching to compete in the AL West. A starting rotation featuring John Gray, Dane Dunning, and Martin Perez has no business competing for a playoff spot, and the Angels will need some more time to develop their roster in the coming years to be serious competitors. Don't buy into too much of the hype. My final bold prediction has to do with one of the most intriguing offseason moves, as Japanese standout Seiya Suzuki signed with the Chicago Cubs and will be making his transition from the Japanese Central League to the show. I think that in his first season in the States, Seiya Suzuki will not only win NL Rookie of the Year, but also receives an MVP vote. Fangraphs and Steamer projections love Suzuki's potential for his first season, and they even have him producing a higher WRC plus than reigning AL MVP and fellow Japanese import Shohei Ohtani. To me, that is a stretch to expect that much production right away, but I still am higher on him than the rest of the league may be. In a historically weak NL Central, I think Suzuki can feast on some below-average pitching and put up some quality numbers in his first big league season. Speaking of quality, guys, let's send it to Gabe with the close.
That is unfortunately all of the time we have for today. Be sure to stay up to date with all of our content at Takeover KU on all social media platforms. Until then, have a happy and safe weekend, enjoy some basketball, and remember that it's not about the games you played, but the plays you made. Rock Chalk.